Greetings, adventurers! Welcome to Dungeons&Discourse, a discussion podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons related. I'm your host for today, Walter, and I'm here together with Carlo.
Hi there.
In this session of Discourse, we will discuss everything about alignment and the alignment chart. So, where do we start off? A good place might be to mention what alignment exactly is. Alignment is like a moral code of a person. Feel free to budge in if you...
I'd say that's roughly it. I guess maybe your general disposition towards other people, how you kind of behave yourself around them, I guess.
Yes, and especially to societies.
Yes.
There are a couple of different sorts of alignment. There are good and evil alignments, and in between you have neutral.
Yes.
And next to those, you have lawful and chaotic alignments. And we will discuss all those in due time. But also with neutral in between. And if you combine those, you have a total of 9 different alignment sections.
Yeah.
Which everyone will be categorized into.
I think it's something that most people are familiar with from the memes that we've seen come out a couple of years ago. And in general, it's something that you always very quickly will run into if you start playing D&D. It's all the way at the top of your character sheet, of course. But maybe it's good to kind of discuss what we think each different alignment means. What they say about the character you're trying to create.
Yeah.
Or an NPC if you're a DM. Kind of see how we stand on that.
Yeah. Everyone can have an own interpretation of alignments, and they can never be wrong in that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's good to start with you, because you have the player's handbook in front of you.
Yeah.
So what does the actual book say about alignment?
Well, let's start from the top. We have lawful, and that is most likely the strict codes that a person lives to, like upholding promises, following the codes of a monastery, or following, for example, the laws in society.
Yes,
that can be seen as lawful. And chaotic, you kind of intermingle with those things. If you give a promise, you might keep it, you might not keep it.
Yeah.
And that's the basics of lawful and chaotic. And then, of course, you have neutral in between.
Yeah, and then opposed from that, we have good and evil, which I think are generally something people will be more familiar with, of course.
Yes, of course. That's...
Yeah, wherever you like blowing up schools, stuff like that, that will make you evil. And then if you
Most
don't, you're
yeah.
good.
And good would be helping an old lady cross the street.
Yeah, I guess building a school that was just blown up by an evil person. It's like a vicious cycle.
And then you have neutral people who mainly just look out for themselves, but sometimes they go out of their way to do something particularly evil or good to someone in particular.
Yeah, they'd be part of the school district, so they kind of oversee the blowing up and like the rebuilding of schools. But they aren't directly involved with it.
Yes. So, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you have any specific experiences or things you want to share about alignment? Because...
Do I?
I'm sure there are.
I think there's a lot to talk about.
Definitely.
You mentioned alignment, because I'm not very familiar with the first versions of D&D, but I think it's been a part of D&D from the start, or at least very soon after it was released. And we see this back in a lot of mechanics as well. There's certain magic items, there might even be some creatures, or some effects that can change players' alignment.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we also have the planes in D&D, which is, the whole kind of worms we don't want to open for this episode. Yeah. But generally, if you start talking about the afterlife in D&D, that's kind of arranged with the idea of these alignments in mind. So it comes back in a lot of places that you wouldn't originally expect. Because you'd think alignment is role play. but it's also really built into the system of D&D. I think that's also where alignment becomes a very complicated thing, because it's something that we see as a very fluent thing as roleplay. I'm going to make a chaotic character. My character's going to do chaotic things. But then at some point you can all of a sudden run into very hardcore rules that just say, alignment is this or alignment is that. And there's nothing you can really change about that because it's written a certain way in the book. Of course, as a DM, you have some discretion about whether or not you want to change that. But as a player, you don't really have that option as much. So I think, everyone's going to run into alignment at some point and see it as a really useful thing to build characters around. And also as a very confusing or more difficult thing once you start thinking about actual mechanics that involve it.
And a player handbooks as well as a monster menu gives everything let's say standard alignment.
Yeah.
But that's not that's not holy. You can get a goblin that's lawful good if you want. Even though the standard goblin would be chaotic evil or regular evil.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think, once again, there's a lot of interesting discussions to be had.
Because you can also have a player character, like a paladin who upholds justice and crime.
Mm-hmm.
But a character is malleable. You don't have to always do something exactly according to your alignments.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you might still be lawful good and upholding the law, but if you see a small boy steal some apples from let's say a market or something, you might want to let them go instead of smiting them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's very important about alignment, is that it is supposed to be a very malleable thing.
These are guidelines, but they're not. If you go outside of them, you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I should point that out because some people often get the impression that you do something outside of your alignment, you're immediately something else.
Oh, the discussions we've had on our D&D table. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, at least I think I've had that discussion at least 3 times, where someone just calls you out on, you're chaotic, right? Why are you doing this? Or, are you sure this is your alignment if you're doing these things? And I think, at the end of the day, alignment is still just 9 different boxes you can tick.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a very simple system.
And
characters are very complicated.
You might not even get it right the first time round.
No, definitely not.
If you're creating a character and you think this is how it should work, and they have this background, so they would do something like this. And in play, they do something entirely different. You can just, on the fly, just scratch it out.
Yeah.
Put something else down.
Yeah, I'm hugely in favor of that.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion, yeah. Yeah, I think...
As long as it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where I think, for me, kind of that clash comes, when you look at hardcore mechanics. Because once you actually acquire a deck of many things, and you pull, with cards specifically, but there's a card that can, change your alignment if you pull it from a specific magic item. Maybe this is already going too deep into D&D mechanics.
No, it's fine. Let's go. Changing alignments could be a very natural thing, like a character progression.
Yeah, but there can also be hard rules.
Yeah.
So you can draw this card from a deck of many things, and then I believe it says that you just become the completely opposite alignment. So all of a sudden, your lawful good paladin becomes lawful evil, or a chaotic evil.
Chaotic evil, yeah.
And that's something where I say...
What happens if you're neutral? Just nothing...
I guess nothing changes?
Yeah.
That's a very complicated question. I guess not, because, it's like this grid, right? So every square is kind of opposed to another square, except for the center square.
So if
you just stay
if
neutral,
you were just to draw that card, it would just dissipate, and you would be left there completely random. Alright, did something happen?
But that
doesn't feel any different.
That's cool, because the deck of many things has cards that actually don't do anything, or it seems like they don't do anything, But in actuality, there's like 12 planes over, and there's this demon lord that now wants you dead. Or something like that.
Yeah.
So that is genuinely, even though nothing happens, it can be very interesting. But the point I was trying to get towards or touch on was that having your alignment change in such a direct and, sudden way can be very harmful to roleplay, I feel.
Oh, most definitely.
You can fall out of love with a character instantly if their alignment or the way they act changes. So I feel like it's very difficult to handle as a DM when you see those clashes.
Yeah, I think
as a player.
No one should ever force an alignment change on anyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's kind of a problem that we are running in now with 5e, that makes it sound like I'm like a hardcore D&D player, but when you hear like actual like older DMs talk, I feel like there's a lot of conflict with the alignment system and how the planes work and how mechanically it ties into roleplay now. So I feel like there's a lot of clashes that you should probably try to avoid if you're a DM.
Oh yeah, the planes, that's just way too much to get into. You have these... Are there actually 9 different planes? I believe there are more, right?
Oh, there's so many. I think if we are going to discuss planes at some point...
Let's just glaze it over right now.
No, because I think we can genuinely do maybe an episode dedicated to each plane. And there's like 25 of them at least.
What, 25?
Yeah, I can quickly go over it, if you're interested.
No. Let's just keep it on alignment here.
Yeah, exactly. And not even all of those planes are attached to alignment. Only a specific portion that deal with the afterlife. So it's very complicated. Let's just move on from that entire confusing mess of D&D.
Some races even have their own afterlife individual.
Yes, and those afterlives are still attached to a specific alignment most times.
Still, oh.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Anyway, some races have predefined or suggested characteristics and alignments. Like dwarves tend to be lawful, elves seem to be chaotic.
Oh, I didn't know this actually. That's interesting.
No, it's buried somewhere in the player's handbook.
There's a lot of stuff buried in there. But
yeah.
What does it say exactly?
It just gives me examples, like lawful good is something dwarves would be, and gold dragons. These are guidelines as such.
Yeah, because I know, like, when you're like browsing through the different races, it does say like a small tidbit on how, because of these living conditions and the way these races are raised, they might be a specific alignment. But this is a separate thing, I assume, that you're looking into.
No, it's like the alignment races get based on their societies.
Oh, yeah.
So we touched earlier outside of the podcast on Drow, and I think it's a really interesting subject because Drow used to be, I believe, also Eladrin. Those are those elemental elves. And anyway,
I'm not too sure.
way back, way back, elves and weren't yet separated from Drow and High Elves and Eladrin, I believe.
I think they were like a part of the general like religious pantheon of elves.
Yeah, and then some dick elf gods just said, well, let's screw over all the other elf gods, and they betrayed the rest. They started a war. They lost the war, and though these gods, together with their followers, got banished to the Underdark.
Yeah, which is the underground cave system that's underneath, well, technically any D&D campaign, I guess.
Let's just say the material plane.
Yeah.
Underneath the material plane. And they have this society based on betrayal and individual power and that kind.
And slavery is a big part of it too.
Yeah, very, very big. And that makes them chaotic evil from the get-go.
Yes.
So creating a character...
Well, no, please continue.
Creating a character that's a drow, that's not chaotic evil, would be really difficult, because you would either have to step out of those societies, or either something happened in there that just changed a person.
What's actually really funny about that is that I think one of the most iconic D&D characters is Drizzt Do'Urden. And he actually is a drow that is, good aligned. He actually tries to help people. And he left the drow society and went out to become an adventurer. And to help the people. I think he's a part of the Icewind Dale setting. Not the new, supplement or adventure about the Frostmaiden. Yeah. But, stuff that happened before. Yeah. So, even though we do have these seemingly very hard concrete lines, still there can be this one person that just rejects their entire society and steps out and does become a hero.
Yeah,
so it is still possible even then.
It can, and it does happen. Yeah. So player characters aren't the exception on it.
No, exactly. And that's also a very important note for players, right? If you want to create a character with a certain alignment, just do it, right? Just because the book says that it's supposed to be a certain way doesn't mean you can make it be another way. Alignment is more of a personal thing, I'd say. Or that's how you shoot with it.
I used to have a Dragonborn Barbarian in my previous group, in the session that ended. I believe he was lawful neutral, but he had a history of slavery. And previously in this campaign, he encountered his adopted mother, and she was sold into slavery as well, as along with him. And they were treated poorly. They're slaves, of course. They're going to be treated poorly. And so they met again, and they were talking about this really cruel slaver that has been mistreating them. And even though he was lawful neutral, and actually had something against, not generally killing, but killing innocents.
I'd say the slaver is far from innocent.
Yeah, exactly. He went out of his way to find the slaver and kill him and his accomplices.
Oh, so very purposely seek someone out
in the broad daylight. Even though in normal his character wouldn't do that, but his backstory and this whole experience about slavery and bad things made him push his character so bad he actually went out for revenge.
That's cool.
Normally he wouldn't hold a grudge.
I think. Yeah, that's also story moments like that, where characters do things that are perhaps unexpected, or also often more memorable, which is why, that's just really cool. I like the idea of purposefully going against your alignment, because it makes sense for them. Because those are usually the things you remember from campaigns, right?
But the story after that is also very nice, because he basically told one other person in his party that he was gonna do it, and this was a chaotic person. And he was like, "All right, I can go and help you with this," but he didn't told the rest. So they went on this basically murder scheme, and but they were caught. The guards called them red-handed, and everyone from the party had to leave town. And so you had people fighting their way out. People with the chaotic alignment were fighting their way out.
Yeah,
people with the lawful alignment were basically hiding and running into the shadows and trying to get outside of the city without causing anyone harm and such. And that's a really nice throwback to people actually playing their character to their alignments.
Yeah.
Because the party was split up, and everyone knew something happened in town and they had to leave town. But they all went through that in their different ways. And I found that really respectful.
Yeah, that's cool. I think, that's kind of the other side of the coin, where you don't betray your alignment, and you also end up with a unique situation.
And inside the party dynamics, they killed a person, but it was due to good intentions, sort of. It was a slaver, so anyone. It was also it boosted a lot of roleplay, and thankfully they stuck together.
Oh yeah,
they got over it as a party, and I believe they became stronger for it.
Yeah,
they bonded more, even though we have different alignments.
Yeah, I like that. I like that story a lot. Just the idea that there's like this group of adventurers, and even though they have all these different outviews in life, they can still acknowledge that killing someone that's a slaver might, in the end, be kind of a good thing. Yeah, or at least something that's not reprehensible.
They took different roads, and some might not agree entirely on it, but in the end, they understood each other. And there was no, immediately something, you have done something bad, I am good, I can't let this pass, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah. That would have been like a really turn down. It wouldn't have been a turn down, but it would have given conflict, and creating this moment of humanity for the party, because he was given the time and a chance to explain himself why he did it. Yeah, it's made the whole party grow as a team.
Yeah, I love that. Personally, I think that's a great note to end our discussion of alignment on. Maybe to move on to a segment that I'm very excited about, because it's your turn to host the Monster of the Week.
Yeah, you can see the book over there.
Yes, the Monster Manual.
I have a small paper in between, or actually the big paper.
Oh, so it's like a live reveal for me.
I think you probably already know it.
That's interesting. I'm very curious.
I picked the monster of this week, a mimic.
A mimic? That's a classic. Yeah.
Everyone knows it. But there's actually some things that aren't said about mimics that I really like to get into. Because the origin of mimics is, there is this grand wizard who was like, I have this treasure and I wanted to protect myself. So he took some slime creatures and he started experimenting on them. And he created this mimic.
Oh. I thought they were like a naturally...
No.
Cool. I did not know that.
He actually created mimic. And I believe it was from slimes, although I'm not entirely sure. It was very chaotic.
I'd say, makes sense.
Yeah,
it sounds like that would be the most likely.
Really powerful wizards with really long time ago, so it's anything could have happened actually.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But he created, he just created mimics, and then mimics began to differentiate themselves, because he basically created one type of mimic, just a murder machine basically, who learns by copying the shapes that he can use to trap people. So a lot of people assume mimics are chests.
Yeah. That's the most traditional approach.
But they can turn into anything that's stone or wood-based. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can have basically a floor or a wall that's a mimic.
Oh, or no.
A door.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. But also, some mimics have evolved so far that they actually grew sentient and they are able to talk.
No way.
Yeah.
Talking mimics are a thing.
Yes.
And that's like... Is that also in the Monster Manual? Did you get this from...
no, it's actually... it's in the last paragraph of the Monster Manual. It says that there are actually mimics that can bargain with adventurers.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. I was not aware of that. That makes mimic encounters like a million times more interesting, right?
Yeah.
If this like chest suddenly attacks you, and then there's an extra plot twist, it just starts talking to you. I love that. Yeah, that's cool.
So, the way they actually move is interesting because they don't really create legs. They might have if they became smart enough, but the way they move around is basically they create this kind of pseudopod arm-like thing just from their body. They're kind of slime, so their shape changes. They can change into anything. They can extend their body. So they create this arm, and they create some kind of glue, and they just stick it to somewhere and just drag themselves off.
So they got like hookshot almost.
Yeah, they can.
Cool.
They can attach themselves to the ceiling and stay unmoved and never be seen.
Oh wow!
And when someone just walks underneath them, they just drop down. They're incredibly heavy as well, so people might just instantly die if a mimic falls on top of them.
That creates so many like cool ambush opportunities.
Yeah,
like, the idea that there's this creature that we all, or at least I thought, was like this chest that has eyes and maybe will bite you. All of a sudden becomes this like horrible predator that will like stalk you and ambush you. That's so cool.
With this glue, it's also able to naturally grapple people. So if it attacks you with a pseudopod, you might become instantly grappled. You're just basically stuck, and then it's bad because you're glued to it. You're gonna have disadvantage on trying to escape it. The DC isn't that high. I think it's 12 or 13.
I think it's 13 is what I'm reading.
But still, with a disadvantage, that's gonna be a difficult something to beat. Especially if you're a mage with not a lot of points into dexterity or strength.
Yeah, definitely.
And with disadvantage, that's difficult.
Yeah,
and it gets advantage on its bite attack on you.
So it's really designed. At least I assume it's really designed to target a single person in a party, just instantly down them, I guess.
Yeah. It doesn't do a lot of damage. I believe its bite attack does acid damage as well.
Oh yeah, I see.
That's the same way it catches its predator, but also consumes it. It's just basically put something into their body and they dissolve, and then they consume those nutrients. And they grow bigger.
Really? They can actually change their size to large or huge or gargantuan?
They don't change their size per se. If they are, the only way they can increase size is by eating, and the only way they can decrease size is by multiplying. Because when
that's cool.
When a mimic multiplies or procreates, it basically just splits itself, and then you have two mimics.
I think that's also how a lot of oozes work, so I can see how it's linked back to that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Can I do that in combat as well?
Not in a stat block, so I'm gonna say no.
Alright, fair enough. So there, take notes. You can change this if it's cool.
But yeah, a usual mimic will split itself off when it reaches a certain size.
Oh, I see.
But you have this other category of mimics that sometimes just forgets to split off, and then that's where you get the memes from mimics being houses or ships or even mountains.
That is pretty terrifying. Just stepping into
entire rooms in dungeons. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Definitely. They are, however, kind of nocturnal. I believe they have 20 or 30, maybe 40 feet of blind vision. What does it say in the stat book?
I think it just has dark vision at the 60 feet.
Dark vision, alright. Yeah. The way that it works, it has some sensory organs all around its body that work like eyes that see heat vision.
Oh.
So, in the day, it's if it's in the sun, it's practically almost blind because everything is hot and it's really hard to see. But also, if you hold a torch close to it, it might become confused and sometimes drop people.
That's cool.
It's not actually something in the stat block, but it should be. At least I played mimics that way.
Oh, cool. Well, you actually have random as well, with all that, like, background knowledge. Because I think I've incorporated mimics into campaigns, and then have players not go near them because they were too obvious, but I wouldn't run them with all this extra information. So you actually ran them in a very specific way then, or how?
Well, I actually did something really kind of cheeky, because I set up these chests all around the dungeons, and then every time someone opens a chest, I make them roll a luck check.
Oh, I see.
And then I have a table, like, at 20 they get magical armor that's worth, like, 10,000 gold pieces.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I gave that before. They went
Power curves are just out of the window immediately.
But when they rolled, like, a 4 or lower, they would just be instantly grappled, and basically, the chest was a mimic.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that almost forces them to interact with the mimics, because it's luck-based, no longer based on, can I, like, realize the DM is trying to trick me, or see this encounter ahead of time?
Mimics can't be distinguished from the things that they're mimicking.
But if you're making a luck check, then you can no longer know that as a DM beforehand, right?
No, that was kind of cruel of me.
Yeah.
On hindsight, but it created some pretty fun moments.
Yeah, I can
like a rogue finding a chest, wanting to keep it for himself, just like keep his loot, opening it, and it's a mimic, and he's gonna scream for help, and now the whole party is somewhere else because he wanted to loot this chest for himself.
Oh, so I like that actually. It's a different way of running it. It might be a little more unfair to players, but it also creates a lot more scenarios because you run it that way. That's pretty cool. Yeah. That really makes you want to run a mimic encounter now.
Yeah.
The idea that, like, players step into a room and the entire room is a mimic is something I never even considered. Or a dungeon that's a mimic, although that might be a bit too ambitious.
Yeah, that's fair. And actually, the thing I forgot to mention is the whole body of a mimic is both its brain and muscle.
Okay.
So the bigger it gets, the smarter it gets.
Oh no. That's horrible.
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
Yeah. So that's when they split off, they kind of already they're not that smart. Say you need a pretty big mimic to or far evolved mimic to make him talk.
Yeah.
And converse actually with adventurers. But they will always be looking for food. So if they run into adventurers, they might strike a deal with him if they feed him. But then again, if a fight goes bad and they run into that mimic again, even though they already made a deal with him,
the instincts kind of take over.
The instincts try to take over, and it's like, they're weakened. Yeah, I'm gonna try and eat them.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So the only thing it cares about is eating, basically.
Yeah, it's like, like some other, like, I guess hunger-dependent creatures, maybe like a werewolf or vampires, something you can compare it to, but even that's a bit of an exaggerated comparison. It's pretty cool. I like that. That they, that their hunger is always at the forefront of their mind.
But you can also, fun thing I always like to do, after a boss battle, or just a big battle, the party is gonna come into this treasure chamber, where there's gonna be like 100 chests.
Oh, no.
And a lot of them are mimics, and they're gonna have to find out somehow. Because just by investigating it, you can't tell a mimic apart from the actual thing.
Yeah, it's like a passive effect.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe
false spirits is what it's called. Actually, quite a lot of similar like amorphous-based creatures have that trait. Yeah. I think some of the blights from last episode had that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, what was it? Twin blights?
Yeah, I think the twig and maybe also the fine blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So, yeah, either way they're kind of screwed if you decide to put them in there.
They're not that big of a threat.
They're only CR2.
Yeah, so... And if a party is careful, they might just find out that it's mimicked by shooting an arrow at it or firebolts.
Yeah, fair.
If they're really careful.
Yeah. But then you always get back to what's going to happen to the item in the chest if I start shooting arrows from it. I mean, 9 out of 10 times it's not going to matter, but if there's something particularly breakable in there, then there might even be consequences for that.
Yeah.
Although, once again, that's maybe being slightly cruel DM. Your players found a novel way to distinguish mimics, and we punish them by giving them less items.
Mimics also have their uses, because...
they're good for the ecosystem?
No, not that. But they still do their job. A wizard created them to protect his treasure, and that's exactly what they do.
But they still, have treasure inside of them once you kill them, or how does that?
You can actually give them treasure, yeah.
Oh, they'll just hold on to it because they can't digest it, or how does that?
No, they can't digest, I believe, anything stolen metal. Not 100% certain of that. But so you can give them an important amulet as long as you can ask them to protect it and promise it to feed it.
I see.
Because else it's gonna just refuse your orders and try and eat you.
Fair enough.
But also just, as a mimic, you can put a couple of chests next to each other and you know which one is the right one and the rest are all fakes.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. That's a way to guard your treasure as well. But you also can bargain with a mimic to keep hold of a small item.
Okay, so they can... Okay, so they can even play into a villain's plan a bit, where they are supposed to hold on to a specific item or a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many ideas going through my mind at one point. I think we've definitely accomplished what we wanted to set out with this monster of the week. At least I hope so. For me, at least, I hope that most of the people at home are also thinking about how they can incorporate the next time.
Yeah,
that sounds really cool.
I really enjoyed researching this monster.
Yeah, that's cool. Should we move on to our final segment? I don't know how pressed for time we are, actually. I should quickly check. This is a secret segment for anyone that's curious how it goes on behind the scenes. That we kind of devised up ahead of time. In case we don't have enough time for the show, we have an extra segment we'll just tack on, which is based around a specific mechanic that we can find in the player handbook or in the Dungeon Master's Guide. That we can then kind of use to start a new conversation.
Things like false appearance would be a mechanic we can use.
Usually it's just a buzzword that triggers a larger conversation. Let's see. We're currently on 38 minutes, so we have time for a short discussion, maybe.
Let's do a small one.
Yes.
45 minutes would probably be the ideal length for a podcast.
So the one I had prepared could be an episode all on its own, which was the base and damage types.
The base?
Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit too grandiose of an idea, so maybe we should keep it small. Just trying to improvise at this point. Let's do something simple. We actually had a very small discussion about this earlier before we started the podcast, which is that some races have specific traits that make it so they don't have to sleep. So elves have this meditation trance. I think Warforged don't need to sleep, or they have to be turned off, but they can still see.
Yeah.
Let's maybe see if we can do something with those mechanics. What's your take on that when you're creating a character? Is that something that you're really looking out for, something that you're interested in, or something that you don't care about at all?
Absolutely. When making a character, I don't.
Well, I mean, picking a race, stuff like that.
No, definitely not. That's not high on my priority list.
I don't think so.
I think my priorities are basically roleplay, and then the ability scores, and then the feats that it gets, and then the rest.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I think it is a very unique ability.
Yes, definitely.
Whenever you were on a new campaign where everybody has a new character, and one of the characters has one of these specific traits, it often makes rests at campsites or if you're out in the wilderness a lot more interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because if you do have a Warforged that has this trait, that means that all of a sudden it becomes very hard to ambush players, because there's always just a pair of eyes looking around, even though the Warforged itself is in an active state and can immediately respond to danger. Mm-hmm. So, I think there's definitely a lot of potential behind those
How does
small mechanics.
Meditating actually work? I never go really deep into it when I was playing characters, but I know, like elves, they instead of sleeping they meditate, and they have to do it 4 hours a day for a long
4 or 6. This is just something I thought of because, like I said, you have something else prepared, so I don't know the basics or specifics. So people at home might be very angry at us right now for getting it wrong. But yeah, I think it's 6 or 4 hours,
somewhere in between.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like meditate. I'm not sure how it works exactly, honestly.
They get benefits from like a long rest if they meditate too, right?
Oh, so they have like shorter rest is essentially the...
I believe that is how it works. Human tends to need more sleep than an elf needs to meditate, I believe.
I see. So you could say that that's slightly weaker than the Warforged's ability to, I think, also rest for 6 hours to kind of like look around.
Yeah, that's really strong. I really like just having a party that consists of 2 or more Warforged.
Yeah, it's like
you're just never gonna know.
It's like a security camera, basically.
Yeah.
But I think
the fun thing is you can put them on a cart.
Oh my god!
And have a rest. Maybe. Well, on the road, can it?
I don't know. I guess technically, but then if it's interrupted for more than an hour, of course, it still doesn't count. Or for more than 1 or 2 hours, it still doesn't count as a rest.
Yeah, fair.
Although, yeah, I think that's still how it's ruled. Even though Warforgeds are robots and in generally are very confusing to run if you start talking about things like the afterlife, having a soul, stuff like that. I'm just
happy that they're not into just the fancy normal sword coast setting.
Yeah, they're from the Eberron modules, right? Yeah, so generally they're also something you wouldn't see a lot.
No.
But they still have some of those very unique mechanics that you don't have to sleep.
I believe they also have different magical items. Because they have these power cores, and there are certain magical items that can replace the power cores and give the Warforged. I lost the name for that for a second. Warforged special abilities like immunities or resistances.
That's cool. But once again, that's part of the Eberron setting.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. I think that's a very cool thing, that you kind of create a race or a specific like class or subclass that kind of interact with something outside of it. So if you are playing Warforged, you can find this very unique item that can boost your skills that no other player could properly utilize. Like, say you find a +2 dagger, you could use that as a paladin, even though it's better for a rogue. But if you find this power core, your paladin is just going to look at it like, what the hell is this? Meanwhile, the Warforged is in the background being like, oh, I need that. So I think that's very cool.
Yeah. My bad, I lost my train of thought.
Should we wrap up? I think we're drawing a blank.
Yeah.
I think the main conclusion is that we're just boring people. We can't hold the conversation for long. I think we did reach the 40-minute mark at this point. And quickly, we're pretty much at the same length as last time. So we made it.
Right.
If we shoehorned in a final segment, we did reach our actual time.
No.
We have one point we want to quickly do right, which is maybe discuss where we are going to post a podcast and also some comments we received.
So we are right now planning on broadcasting this, or not actually broadcasting, uploading this to YouTube. And we're actually currently busy through some third party as to getting this on Spotify.
Yes.
We would like to see if that actually works out. It's still...
That would be so cool.
Up there, but...
It's out there.
I mean, having an own show on Spotify, it would really be something.
Yeah.
But then again, we also really need to quickly work on a logo.
Yeah, just
And a nice
it's gonna get tricky.
musical intro as well, maybe.
Yeah, so it would be nice. I think it's gonna be difficult because the summer vacation is ending.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna have very busy schedules. But I think the idea is there for the podcast. I hope
we have a lot to grow.
That's for sure. We're not very familiar with this. We don't even know if the audio is gonna sound well after we're done recording this, so I hope it's okay. But I think in general, I think the idea of just discussing these topics in a sort of weird way by just saying, once of the week, let's talk about it. It's a very niche concept, maybe, but I hope one that hasn't been done too many overtimes in different podcasts. So I hope there's a market for it.
Yeah.
Like an audience.
And we had some questions about specific classes, I believe.
Yes, one of our good friends, Ralph, asked us a question.
Yeah, we do indeed plan on covering classes as an individual thing.
Yes.
But then, as an individual episode, it might be a dedicated episode to druids or paladins.
Yes. So, for instance,
and might be several episodes even.
Yeah,
There's enough to discuss.
Right now, we had alignment as a topic. Then for that episode, druids would be the topic. Then we would still do a monster of the week. It could even be themed. A monster that would be have a close relation to druids. I'm sure there's a lot out there. But we're still workshopping some ideas. I don't think, at least not for me, I don't know how you were.
I also like to do an episode about planes. It's gonna be probably several episodes, knowing you.
That's gonna be an entire season.
Yeah. But it's a big subject and imposing, a bit of a scary
intimidating
subject.
For sure.
Intimidating, yes. Intimidating subject to start on, but I really like to talk about planes.
Yeah, well, I think we should do it at some point.
Yeah.
I think for now it's nice to have some more basic introductory episodes, starting out D&D.
First the classes, indeed.
Yeah. Well, not even per se first the classes, but I think it's something that we should slowly start building towards. Maybe. Yeah, either way, I'm pretty excited for what the future holds in this podcast. Maybe this is getting a bit too sentimental and personal now.
No, all good things.
Yeah. I think that's all we have to discuss, right? So we should end it here?
Yeah.
Great.
Feel free to leave any kind of comments. We appreciate any questions, but also feedback about quality or improvement or maybe even new segments. We might be into that.
Oh yeah. And if there's anyone out there that doesn't know something about music or can get a track for us to open on, or even some cover art or whatever, hit us up. Should we throw out our email address? Well, we will put it in the description of this video on YouTube.
We will.
Yeah. We're very grateful for everyone listening. We should really shut up because we should have had the podcast 5 episodes.
Yeah, all right. Well,
we had fun. I hope you did too.
Bye, everyone. And see you later.